nursing home. So it's pretty devastating.
He says the best way to reduce the risk is to focus on prevention. Yes, make sure area rugs are tacked down in your house, and of course try to avoid icy patches when you're outside the home. But there are other things you can do.
Just simple stretching exercises and core strengthening exercises are very important to keep your balance.
Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Moreno Valley, Corona, and Riverside. Listen to KCAA 102.3 FM. KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
I'm sick and tired of hearing things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocrites. All I want is the truth. Just give me some...
Hello everyone, welcome to the Truth Only Show here on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. We are back with a new episode of the Truth Only Show, and we would like to invite you to go to truthonlyshow.com to find our previous episodes of the show. They're all available right there on the website to watch, stream, send to somebody else. That's most important. Send it to somebody who you think may get something out of the show. That's all at truthonlyshow.com. Now, here's the host of the Truth Only Show, David Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone. Great to have you here with us again on another episode of our show here, where we deliver you nothing but the truth. And the truth that we're talking about is the truth about you, the listener. Okay? Thank you very much for being with us. I want to give some special thanks to those that make this show possible. Our engineer, Manny. Thank you, Manny, for good to have you back again. All right. And webmaster, Mr. Joel Strouser. Thank you very much, Joel. You do a great job. Thank you. And my co-host and producer, Michael, that you just heard just a moment ago. Okay, and before we get started, I'll give you just a little example, a little idea of what we do talk about here. And what we do teach is human nature, what we believe to be the most important thing that you can know about yourself. Think about it, your true nature. And we're not referring to the physical part, more into the creative process that exists with all humans. All human beings have a mind, and the mind is creative. And you, by following these really simple principles, you can learn to take control of any situation in your life, anything, and live a much happier, much more fulfilled life that you can really enjoy, that you can have some peace, some just everything. I mean, so many wonderful things that can happen by understanding your true nature and learning some very simple principles about yourself and just following through with them. That's all. That's what we're talking about here. And that's all we're trying to do on this show, is to help you learn these principles so you can move on and create a better experience for yourself. That's very simple, really. Okay, and our topic today is consciousness. Now, you know, when I thought about this topic, you know, when we thought, try to make it as simple as we can, because, you know, I for many years of my life, I kind of, you know, I had an idea of what really consciousness, what it means. You know, consciousness is being aware of what's going on around you, being aware of your surroundings. But I think what I really want to expand on today is how to learn to expand your consciousness. And you'll be amazed at what really, it's a very basic and simple concept, that when you can learn to expand your consciousness, you can just transform anything in your life. You can become whatever you want to become. You can do whatever you, and you'll understand why, you know, it's very valuable for you to know, to understand consciousness. Okay? Now, with a developed consciousness, I'm talking about with a very well-developed consciousness. What happens is you'll always know what to do in life. You will always know what to do. You will always know what direction you're going, and you'll in other words, you'll just have a focus in life, and it'll be very simple, and it won't even be a lot of work. You're going to have so much joy and pleasure when you do develop your consciousness. What it does is, when your consciousness is more developed, what happens is you remove any confusion that you have in life. You begin to remove obstacles, things that are holding you back from living a greater life. All those things begin to go away, and things begin to clear up for you. You know, with an expanded consciousness, what really happens is you begin to know who you truly are, not who you think you are. I'm going to go into that just a little bit more. Who you think you are. You know, a lot of us have had that problem. I know I went through that. Really not knowing who I truly was. Not knowing where I truly wanted to be in life, or knowing what I could be and accomplish and become in my life. I didn't really know. So in a sense, I had some limitations in life. I had a lot of limitations. I believed that I was limited, okay? And I'm talking about in many different ways, financially and all kinds of ways, all kinds of things. I believed that I was limited, that I was born into this world in a certain place with, you know, with the family that I grew up with, and just many things that made me think that I was limited. And I'm talking about a lot of years. I spent a lot of years like that. Sure, I did accomplish some things. I did, you know, there was times when I financially I lived, you know, pretty well, but I didn't really truly know who I was. I thought I was a person living in this life. I would see other people doing some fantastic and incredible things with their life, and yet I didn't. You know, I had never done anything incredible. I never felt that I was accomplishing anything great in life. So, and the reason is I really didn't know who I was. That's what we're talking about here. When you begin to develop your consciousness, you begin to find out who you truly are. And once you begin to understand who you truly are, you are going to see that you do not have any limitations. The sky is the limit. That's it. The sky is the limit. You have an incredible potential within you, but it is just a matter of expanding your consciousness, your awareness. In other words, you need to become aware of this that I'm talking about. That's what it is. That's what we're talking about here. Let me give you a couple of examples of what I mean by expanding your consciousness or your awareness. Now, think about this. Everybody knows how to do something. What I mean by that is everyone. Let's say you're a mechanic. Okay, you know how to tear an engine apart. You may know how to tear transmissions apart. You might know how to do it. Now, that and you've developed your consciousness to be able to do that. In other words, you spent the time, you put the time at becoming that mechanic. Now think about it. Just think about the people around you. Okay, I'm sure there are many people around you that don't know what you know about that work. In other words, they don't have the consciousness, they've never developed it to tear an engine apart, tear a transmission apart, put it back together, and get the car in perfect running condition. They've never developed the consciousness. Let's say you have. Okay? So you have developed the consciousness to be able to accomplish something that others don't do. But now, look, now turn it around the other way. They are probably doing something else. They've expanded their consciousness in something else that you haven't expanded your consciousness on. So I just want you to understand what I mean by developing your consciousness. Okay, now whatever you developed, whatever consciousness, your consciousness that you developed it to a certain level. And what was that? Why was that? Is because you put a certain amount of time expanding your awareness at what you do. Okay? Now, let's think about it this way. Somebody else also may have followed the same path that you did, but maybe they didn't stop. Maybe they kept on developing their awareness of their work. They kept on. They didn't stop. They continued on and on, more and more at whatever it is that they do. And they've developed a greater consciousness than you, maybe. Maybe they can do a whole lot more than you can do. Maybe they've accomplished financially or their position in their job now, in their occupation. Maybe they have taken it a lot further than you, but went through the same path that you did. So what am I saying? That you can expand your consciousness, your awareness of whatever you are doing right now. Let me give you another example. Let's say, for example, you're a musician. When you first started, when you first picked up that instrument, your level, your awareness, your consciousness, the level that you were at was very, very limited. Okay? But because you were willing to put in the work, you began to grow in awareness of that instrument. You got better and better and better. And as you continue to grow and expand your consciousness, what began to happen? Now all of a sudden, you were maybe approached by somebody that wanted you to join a band. Now you see what I'm saying about your consciousness and your awareness expanding? Now you were able to do more with what you were doing when you first started with that instrument. Now you are able to do more. You're able to accomplish more. And as now, let's say you're performing now in front of big crowds. Okay? You've developed the consciousness and the awareness to be able to do that. Now, the next person that hasn't developed that consciousness, that awareness, they can't do that. They don't have any idea what it feels like. They don't know what it's like to do what you can do. So what I'm saying here is that whatever you work on, whatever your talent is, whatever your profession is, you can always develop a greater consciousness. You can always expand it even more. And the more you expand it, the more possibilities open up to you. The more you can do with it. You become more aware of more things. That's what we mean here. Now, what we're really saying, the amount of time that you are willing to spend at whatever you do, the more time you spend at it, the greater your awareness becomes, the greater your consciousness expands. And there are no limits. There are no limits at what you do. And you begin to take more and more control over your life, the more your awareness and consciousness expands in whatever it is that you're doing. And the benefits become greater. More and more benefits by expanding your consciousness. And, I'm not only just talking about just your job, your occupation, your trade. There are many other benefits that begin to happen. There are many great things that begin to happen to you. The more and more you expand your consciousness, what begins to happen is you begin to remove a lot of things that hold people back. They begin to go away. Jealousy, envy, hatred. And you know what? You even begin to love a little bit more. You know why? Because you begin to realize who you truly are. And now you can begin to see others in the same way. You can begin to see that we are all the same in that sense. And once you can begin to see that we're all the same, and then you begin to see there's no one holding you back from from expanding your consciousness, your awareness, and your potential. Once you see that there is no one there but yourself holding you back, and you can look at others and see that they are the same as you. There is no difference. They're not holding you back. No one's holding you back but yourself. I want you to really think about this very simple, basic principle. And again, another great benefit, that as you're on your journey, expanding your awareness, your consciousness at what you do, and you open your mind up to something greater, and you keep it open. Now, what happens, like I said earlier, now you know what you need to work on every day. And maybe I shouldn't even use that word work on, because you know what? It becomes more and more pleasurable. It's not even work anymore. You can hardly wait to practice your skill, your talent, whatever it is. You can hardly wait. Every day is a new adventure, because you are steadily growing towards a greater life, a greater understanding, a greater awareness of who you truly are. And you begin to see there is nothing holding you back. Your mind opens up. And eventually, you open up to this term, the infinite. You begin to realize that as you grow and learn and expand, you begin to realize the infinitude of what is to be known. You begin to realize that it's infinite, that knowledge is infinite. You have access to an infinite knowledge. That's when life begins to get exciting. Life gets exciting because you realize, and just about every day, you could see your growth. It is very slight, but you can see it. The process of growth. And not only that, but as all of these things begin to happen to you, your awareness grows, your consciousness grows, your potential grows, your ability to do more, to have more, and become more. Once you really start putting it all together, you begin to feel what I'm talking about. You feel it, and you know it's true. You begin to realize that each step that you move forward, you're taking on a little more power. But I'm not talking about a negative power, a bad power. I'm talking about a good power that you know is good, because now you begin to see life as it really is. You begin to see reality now. Not this thing not this idea that you had who you thought you were before, a limited person. Now you begin to see the truth of who you truly are. A person with infinite potential, and you're moving towards it all the time. Daily. Just moving towards it. And now you begin to see that you have more access to more good in life, more of the good that other people are experiencing. Now your mind begins to open. You begin to see that it's there for you too. All the good that you want is there. It's just waiting for you. And how? It's just by expanding your consciousness, your awareness of whatever it is you're doing right now. You may have a limited consciousness, a limited awareness, even at your job. But there's nothing holding you back from expanding on it. Nothing. Only you. Think about this. A very, very simple principle. There is nothing holding you back but you. We're going to take a short break now, and I just want to remind you, you're listening to KCAA 1050 AM or 102.3 FM or 106.5 FM here on the Truth Only Show, where you can find us at trutholyshow.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this short break.
Wasting my time. Don't waste your time. Back once again. Ooh, just begging you, please, darling. Think twice about me. So bad, I could make you happy. I'm not a madman. If you and I could be together, I'd with his little heart in his hand just to love you. Just to get up next to you and hold you. Oh, baby. You say that I'm wasting my time. Well, it's my time, baby. You better listen to me. Saying I'm loving you. Yeah. Hey, now, baby. Trying to tell you that it's you. Talking to you, baby. I'll never, I'll never do you no, lady. You would check my stuff out one time, just to hold you, just to squeeze you. All I wanna do is get next to you and please you, baby. Here's where I'm coming from.
All right, welcome back to the Truth Only Show. That song was called "You're Still a Young Man" by Tower Power.
Right.
We're talking about consciousness here and expanding it. You gave what's a good example of what you're talking about? You're saying that you can see more when you expand your consciousness, right?
Yeah. Well, let's take your profession as a musician. Okay. Think about it. When you first started, like anybody that's listening to whatever it is that you do, whatever your occupation, your trade, whatever. We're going to use one example, but it applies to everybody that's listening. When you first started out, it almost seemed impossible for you to even learn to play an instrument, right? It was very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And in other words, at that time, that's the level of your consciousness, of your awareness about being a musician. That's where it was. It was very limited, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you got serious with it and put the time into it. You slowly began to learn to play that instrument, right? So your awareness and your consciousness, that's what I'm talking about here, was slowly starting to grow for that one particular thing, right? And as time went by, you continue to work on it, and eventually you got to where you were playing songs and more songs.
Yeah.
And so your consciousness, your awareness of that particular thing continued to grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it grew to where you finally got the confidence to actually get up in public and do it in public in front of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your awareness and your consciousness was steadily growing because you remained focused.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've taken it to a much higher level now, right?
Yeah.
Than in the beginning.
I think this is
that
good example of when you're starting out, you think it's a big deal to learn one or two songs, and then now I play for a long time. I play for several hours a night, so you're playing 40, 50 songs a night, and there's a lot of people that are in bands and stuff that they just don't think about it that way. They've never tried to do that. So for them, that just sounds like a really long time. That sounds like so many songs they have to learn, and it sounds like too much. But it really, when you start to do it, you can do it too. It's pretty much anyone could do it. It's just whether or not you take on the challenge of actually doing it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, after you've been doing it for a while, it just seems like no big deal to be playing 40 songs a night.
Right.
And so that's just a matter of perspective before you did it and then after you did it. After you did it, it's not that hard. Before, it was a monumental task.
Right. So that right there is the point that I'm trying to make. As long as you continue forward, challenging yourself, your awareness expands, your consciousness expands, right?
Yeah.
Now you're having a more expanded consciousness, so whenever you get in front of a crowd or whatever, you already know you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You already know you can entertain. And see, you're at the level of where you know you can entertain. Now, other people, they have been maybe doing it for years. They don't have the consciousness that you have to do it at that level, right? But now somebody else have developed the consciousness and awareness to pack stadiums.
Yeah.
Because all it is having the consciousness and the awareness to do it is when you will do it. So it's all it is continuing on with the same process, challenging yourself more and more and more. Because that guy that gets up there and packs a stadium, he has no doubt that he can do it because he's developed himself to that point of consciousness. So I think you see what I'm saying here, right? In other words, there's no limits. You challenge yourself to whatever you want, and you will reach it. You will reach whatever level you keep. As long as you keep moving forward, challenging yourself, you will accomplish whatever it is you want.
I think another good example of that is like people who listen to classical music or jazz, but yeah, for classical music, you know, you could listen to it as somebody who if you don't know about the style, you just listen to it and you just think it sounds nice, you know, it's beautiful, which it is. But then there's people that, you know, kind of know that the structure of the pieces, so, you know, if it's a sonata, you know that there's a structure that goes along with that. And you can hear, you can be listening for, oh, here's the first section, and then it goes into the next section, and you understand what's happening in that section. Then as you learn more, you kind of understand, like, oh, well, they always do this with the melodies in the first section, and then in the next section, they expand upon those melodies and put them in different keys. And then just keeps on going forward where you're like, oh, I can hear he's going on, he's in this key, and then he transfers to this key, and then he switches back, and then he starts going through all of these keys. And then if you go further, you can actually tell, and it's all just based on how much your knowledge is. So you can go from just hearing it on a surface level and saying it's beautiful, but then you can go on somebody who's really studied it, go on and actually understand what they're doing and how the music is working. And that's another thing, like with jazz music, it's the same thing. People might listen to it because they think it's cool or it sounds good and it's beautiful, but you know, then a lot of musicians will listen to it and then they can kind of hear like, oh, I think he's doing this when they're doing their solo. Then there's people that, you know, play jazz and are really good at it, and they can probably hear, it's like, oh, I know exactly what that guy's doing. Then it just keeps going. It's like, then they have to be looking for other people that, I don't even know what he's doing. It's really what it sounds like when you hear somebody playing something very sophisticated in jazz. You really like, I have no idea what he's doing, but it sounds amazing. And you can hear that, oh, he's going outside of the key, he's going into, you know, and you can, so there's just so much more there. It's not that you can't hear unless you know. You're not aware of what's going on. You're not conscious of what's going on. Because it's beyond your level of consciousness for that particular thing, right? It's the same as what I was involved with for many years in the construction business. Eventually, you get to the level of consciousness and awareness to where you can build anything, any building. There's nothing that you know that you cannot build. I mean, any building, whatever they throw you, a set of blueprints, it doesn't matter. You open it up when you first start, you don't know what's going on, but you put it all together in a puzzle. But that's because you've developed that level of awareness and of consciousness. But it's because, again, the important point that we're trying to make here, that you should get the whole point. What is this principle? As long as you keep challenging yourself, moving forward, you will develop the level of consciousness that Michael is talking about and that I'm talking about, where
Even if you're in the construction business, they'll hand you a set of plans and you can build anything. Now you're in demand. Now your finances are improved. Everything improves. And now you become aware that knowledge is infinite, because even though you can build any building, there's still more to learn.
Yeah.
There is still more to learn.
Yeah.
Okay? There's always more to learn, even for the musicians that you're talking about. There is still more for them to learn. So the person that you see accomplishing, doing something great in life, it's a very simple concept. He wasn't born any more special than anybody else. Anybody's listening to our voice. He wasn't born any more special than anybody else. The only thing he did was continue to challenge himself and just keep pushing himself forward. That's it. Everyone has that potential. Everybody. Everybody. That's part of our nature. That's what we're talking about. That's why this show, we talk about human nature. And in that sense, we're all the same. There is no difference between us. It's just a matter of to make up our mind. Are we going to make up our mind, or are we going to move forward and accomplish something great? Or are we just going to settle for where we are? Which is fine. I mean, nobody's saying that you have to do anything. But I mean, I think most people would love to accomplish much more than they have accomplished already in their lives, but they don't believe that they can. Well, we're trying to prove to you, yes, you can. You can accomplish whatever you want. You can become whatever you want to become. It's just a matter of you pushing yourself forward, challenging yourself. That's all. Other than that, there's nothing that separates us as human beings. We're all the same in that sense.
And I think that there's another thing where you're saying, like, oh, if you really get into the thing that you're working on, eventually you're starting to enjoy it. You enjoy it, and you look forward to working on it. So it's not even work anymore.
Right.
I think another thing is that if you have that kind of feeling about it, where you really want to do it, and you're really excited about it, and you're really hungry to learn and get better, that a lot of times there is people that will want to help you.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
But they only want to help the people that they see the potential in.
Right.
Right? So if you're not one of those people, or if you don't look like you're really going to do it, or if you're not really enthusiastic about it, those people are not going to help you, because you've helped a lot of people in your job. You've taught people.
Yeah.
And there's some people that you would never want to teach, right?
Yeah.
There's some people that you would. There's some people you wouldn't. And it's based on what, though?
Well, it's really based on the one that really looks like he really wants to know. You enjoy teaching somebody that really wants to know. And like for me, I've taught people the business. And so many of them they're managers. They're managing companies now. They're not only managing, some of them have their own businesses now. They have moved on because they took it seriously about challenging themselves and moving forward. And like I said, some of them now, you can hand them a set of blueprints. They'll build you anything. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll build it for you. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about here. It's very simple principle. There's nothing complicated. I think everybody that's listening can understand what we're talking about here. Now it's just a matter of making a decision. Am I going to move forward and accomplish something, make my life a whole lot better? Or am I just going to settle? That's all. It's just a decision. Am I going to settle for where I am now? That's it. I mean, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. If you don't have any aspirations of being, doing anything, accomplishing anything great in life, that's okay. I mean, there's nobody to judge you. That's it.
On that note, let's take a quick break on the Truth Only Show. Let's continue that conversation when we come back. We'll be right back.
Saw me a girl today who walked with such a gentle sway, and I knew right from the start she was the one who wish I may, I wish I might make you my all-star, shining bright. I know I can feel it. Hey, this time is clear. All the girls that I had were fine, but they were mainly just to pass the time. Though I must confess I had some fun. Now I know that you're the only one, and all I can say, girl, I love you each and every day. And if I may, if I might, make you the all-star of my life. I know I can feel it. Hey, this time is real, and I know I can feel it all the time. This time is real. Now it's time for me to make my move. Girl, we got to get in the groove. It's what we do with what we got to. That's gonna put us up in the slide. And I hope and pray we get together with no delay. It might be day, it might be night. It don't matter any time is right. I know I can feel it. Hey, this time is real, and I know I can feel it all the time. This time is real, and I know I can feel it. Hey, this time is real, and I know I can feel it. Oh, baby, this time is real, and I know I can feel it. Oh, come on, this time is real, and I know I can feel it. Hey, this time is real.
Welcome back to the Truth Only Show. That song was called "This Time It's Real" by Tower of Power, as well. And we're back talking about expanding your consciousness. And we were talking right before we left about how if you make yourself somebody with potential, if you make yourself being somebody who's enthusiastic, there'll be people that will help you.
Oh, yeah.
And to add to that, the better you get, the more people that are going to they'll want to help you because you can help them at that point.
Right. You. That's why I was talking about power. You begin to take on a good power, not to abuse it, but you begin to take on some power because you become more and more in demand by more people. Mm-hmm. The greater your knowledge is, the greater your understanding, the greater your consciousness, your awareness, you will attract more and more people that want to work with you, want to help you, because like you said, they will benefit also. So you just take on this power that you never even realized that you could have.
Yeah. And you didn't get it through because it wasn't the goal. The goal was just to get really good, and it was just a side effect.
Those are just the side effects of what happens when you increase
hard on something.
Yeah, I mean, haven't you already already experienced that? Mm-hmm. You've already seen it working, right?
Yeah.
And there's no limit. We only limit ourselves. We stop ourselves from moving forward. That's all. There's nobody stopping you. There isn't anybody getting in your way, stopping you. Yeah, you got little people once in a while that do a few little things that kind of put a little roadblock, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't stop you. You just keep going forward.
Yeah.
And, really what we're talking about here is developing getting a dream, a vision, having a dream. I mean, when I like the sport of boxing and not only in boxing and music and everything, you ever notice when they interview these people that are, like a guy that just becomes a world champion or whatever, or a singer that just have their big hit or whatever, and now their lives totally change, they call it, I'm finally living my dream. They talk about living my dream. All of them. They always say this is my dream. It's a dream that I've had for years, because everything does take years. I mean, I hate to say it. It'd be nice if I could tell you had some magic pill or something, a magic potion that would make all this happen for you in a few weeks or a month. That it doesn't work that way. But if you're steadily moving forward, you're gonna reach your dream, your goal. And once you're getting close to it, just make it bigger. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it, like you said, it takes a lot of years. How long did it take you to get really good at what you do, you think?
It's...
How long did it until you first, and I guess we'll talk in your construction. How long did it feel how long did it take you just to catch up with everybody else? How about that first? Just to be good at your job. How long did just to be decent at it?
Not the one in charge running it all.
No, just
to be a great helper or whatever. Yeah. Well, that just took a couple of years. Yeah, it took a couple of years.
Then how long do you think until you started to stand out a little bit?
Well, I'd say about 4 to 5.
4 to 5.
But I worked hard at it. Okay, and what I think where I feel in that profession is when I felt like I could build anything. Any house. They could hand me a set of plans, I could build anything. I think that took me about 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years, and I just felt like, because I had already seen so many blueprints that there wasn't any that I could not build. And up to this day, I've never seen one that I couldn't build. So
was that like
but it took me
10 years maybe total?
I'd say about 5, 6 years. Yeah. Because I used to work with a guy that the one that taught me. I worked with him for about 4 years, but I had already been in the business a couple of years when I started working. When I first met him, and I guess he saw something in me like what you're saying.
So you did have a mentor.
Yeah. No, I had a mentor. He saw something in me and asked me if I'd come to work with him, he said the magic words that I was looking for. He said, "Come to work with me, and I'll teach you." And that was it. I didn't question it. I didn't do anything. That's what I wanted. He said, "I'll teach you." And I said, "Great," because I knew about him. I knew that he knew a whole lot. So I knew he could teach me. So I stayed with him for like 4 years. And the only reason I left was because I felt like I was using him like a crutch. When I would run into a bind, I always felt like I had him there to
go ask him,
to get me out of it, Yeah. And then I realized that if I'm gonna really learn this, I got to make all the decisions on my own. I got to decide on my own. I don't need to depend on anybody anymore. So that's when I left. But
I think that's something that you see in a lot of movies, like or TV shows. The student goes out and he's looking for a teacher, and they go to the crotchety old man who was like really, really good in his time, and they're like, I want to learn, and they tell him, no, I don't teach anybody, I don't want to teach anybody, and the only reason why they eventually start teaching him is because the kid is so persistent,
right. And they can see something in him.
Well, they finally, after they're like, wow, this kid's not quitting, even though I've told him no 20 times, he's still coming after it. And that's the kind of thing where they see, okay, well, he really wants to do this. And, and I've known a lot of people who taught music, and I've taught it myself, and it's a real drag, even though if you're getting paid, it's a real drag to teach a kid or anybody that doesn't really want to learn.
Right.
It's not fun. It's that they're not really learning anything. Right. I mean, maybe they're learning a little bit by accident, but not because they really are about it. And it's just doesn't enjoyable now. And that's just so you basically there's a lot of teachers that are just teaching half of their students just for the money.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you get a student that really wants to learn, and those ones I mean, if you're really one of those people, a lot of those musicians, they'll teach you for free.
Oh yeah,
they'll teach you for free if you really want to learn.
Yeah.
They're doing the money part is for. It's kind of like a little bit of a buffer zone to see how interested you really are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, you know, of course it's your income, but it's also like, you know, okay, well, at least I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah,
at the
or
end of the day.
how valuable is it to them? Because they have to pay for it. It gives it a little more value.
But then when you get with parents and kids, you know, a lot of the parents are just paying for it. But it's still, at least you're getting something out of it. But if you have an actual student that really wants to learn, that's fulfilling in itself, just to help them get better.
Yeah, that's so true. As I've known some like that, people like that, that the teacher, a fantastic teacher, didn't even want to teach, but saw that the student was so serious, really dedicated, that actually the teacher was charged a whole lot. And but for that student, did it real cheap for them, because they knew that they were really wanted to learn and that they had already put a lot of time into it.
So that's the thing that I guess you could take from this. If you make yourself into that person that really wants to learn, and then there'll be somebody there to teach you.
Yeah, well, there's a saying. I don't know if I don't remember it exactly, but this says when the student is when the student presents itself or the teacher will show up. Or you know, I think there's a saying that's something like that.
That's totally true. I really believe that. You know, if you make yourself into that person, you'll attract the people that will help you.
Yeah.
And you'll attract people that will help you.
Yeah, I've seen that many times. I'm sure everybody that's listening has seen that. And anybody can understand that. So just to kind of review what we've talked about here, we're talking about consciousness and awareness. How much are you conscious of and aware on your own job, on your own business, your own profession, whatever it is? How much have you developed your consciousness? And think about it. Maybe you've lost interest in it or something, or maybe you've getting kind of bored at what you do now. Maybe what you need to do is pick up the level again, make it a challenge for you to move forward, and just keep moving forward. Develop your consciousness, expand it, your awareness, expand it, and you're going to be amazed at how life. You will begin to learn to see who you truly are, not the person that's limited anymore. That person will go away. You're going to begin to see the true person who you are with infinite potential. Nobody's limited with their potential, because you have a mind that is incredible. A mind that will accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. It will do it for you, but you have to push it. You got to challenge it. You got to move forward. So just want to cover that real quick again. Make sure that in case you tuned in late, that's what we've been talking about. And that's part of the human nature.
And we would like to remind you to go to truthonlyshow.com to check out our previous episodes, and hopefully send somebody else over to truthonlyshow.com. Have them check out our show, because there's nothing stopping us now. And we want to remind you, if you want to go to the bellcityplayers.com, that is my band, and you can hear our music right there on the website, or you could go just search the Bell City Players on YouTube, and right there is the David Paul Band. If you want to see them live, that is by another band that I'm in. Go ahead and go to davidpaulmusic.com and check out one of their calendar and go see a show. And we'll be back next week on KCAA Radio. This is the Truth Only Show. See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Upset alert in college basketball. Final minute. It appears that Purdue is going to beat Michigan State. 73-61 is the score right now, with 40 seconds remaining in the second half. The number 6 Spartans will their first conference game of the season. Again, now it's 73-61. Purdue leads. 40 seconds to go in the